All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg, and so glad to be talking today. It is a Monday, the final Monday. I guess there's a Monday. No, it's not. There's one more Monday in May. That'll be Memorial Day next week, and I'm not really wearing just a plain white T-shirt. This shirt has a message on it. It's in French. On ne peut pas simuler la liberté. There you go. If you want to see it, there it is. On ne peut pas simuler La Liberté. You can't fake freedom. That's what it means. And I got it at a museum near our house. They give you a little parting gift at the Glenstone Modern Art kind of. It's a museum, but it's like an outdoor museum, and you walk from building to building, and it's really great, awesome. I liked it anyway. I like some modern art. It's not always my favorite, but I really like the Glenstone Museum. I was there years and years ago, and they give you, like I said, a parting gift. And so I took the T-shirt. I think you get to choose the message you want. I think you had to. The only gift you could get was a T-shirt. And I took the message I liked. On ne peut pas simuler la liberté. You can't simulate. On ne peut pas. One cannot. You cannot simulate freedom. You can't fake freedom. Either you're free or you're not. And I think that's an important message in our time. I thought I'd go and look at some stories today that I've seen other hosts talk about. Sometimes I read the paper or I look at a story that I'm, kind of coming at fresh. I hear on the radio maybe, which my wife tends to listen to the radio more than I do, but I might hear it in the background. She tells me something. Then I'm, okay, a headline. I get on my phone, an alert. I think, okay, I really want to talk about that. It's really important. But today, a couple of the stories I'm going to focus on, I learned actually not through more primary news sources, again, newspaper, TV, CNN, whatever, where it's breaking, but from other hosts who have talked about it before I did. And I don't like to do that because I don't want you to feel like you're getting the news secondhand or third hand through me. But the way I'm going to discuss these stories, I think, is a little different than some of the other hosts. Hosts I respect, but I feel that, and I don't feel like they missed the story by any means, but I wanted to kind of cover the way traditional liberal, in quotes, media covers them and how I believe that they failed us, or how our democratic progressives have failed us. And that hasn't really been the focus of the stories that I've seen. The reportage I've seen on the NYU diploma withholding case, which is just an absolute disgrace. NYU just completely humiliating itself, betraying its mission in a particularly ugly and vile way. And the way that story has not been covered, the way that story has not been responded to by progressives is really, really disgusting. And the other story that I'm going to there's the Hillary Clinton attacking Trump and how she's getting praised for criticizing the gift of the $400 million jet by the government of Qatar or Qatar, however it's pronounced. I like Qatar myself. How the government of Qatar it's a bribe, right? I mean, we all know that. Obviously, it's a bribe. It's greasing Trump's palm. It's the tribute to the mafia kingpin. There's no question about that. And Clinton, kind of makes that point. Okay, I don't think we needed Hillary Clinton to tell us that. But the irony, the screaming irony of Hillary Clinton complaining about a bribe has been completely lost. At least as far as I don't want to. I heard one person talking about that irony, actually, Jimmy Dore, and that brought it to my attention. But otherwise, not caught. And that's where I want to focus as well, is how media just simply will not, certainly liberal media simply will not point out the absolute obviousness of these hypocritical, phony, corrupt Democrats. So, we've got to recognize that. We've got to realize We don't have allies. We don't have friends. Poor, struggling, and working people, pro-peace people, pro-life people simply don't have any allies in high places. Really, none. There's no coverage of the corruption in the Democratic Party among any kind of elite or progressive media that has, any kind of traditional anchor, like a newspaper or FCC license. You do find some certainly in blogs, and you do on YouTube videos and podcasts and the like, but that's it. So those are your allies if you're pro-peace, pro-life. Sure, the Republicans will cover, the Wall Street Journal, right-wing media will cover Democratic corruption, but then they ignore how bad their side is. So there's no one out there in traditional media land who's saying no. Both a pox on both houses. We've got to. They're really the same house, right? It's just one mansion with a lot of houses in it, or one big house with a couple of mansions in it. We've got to move away from that. And what greater proof, what more obvious proof do you need to come to that conclusion than the bipartisan support for the crime of the millennium, Israel's genocide against the people of Gaza? This is coming from Wafa News Agency. I want to thank our good friend Ari for pointing out, oh, you know what? I got to go put this thing on the, just realized I didn't put us on the Halitics. So let me go, this is going to go on Halitics now as well in Facebook. So just getting a little bit of a late post there. That's okay. 240-242-5646. I can even see my words because it's closed caption. Okay, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. 240-242-5646, how your weekend went, what you think of what I'm talking about and the like. And don't forget, subscribe now. That's super important. We absolutely need your subscription to continue, hopefully, and at some point to grow, because that's, get some kind of, revenue for what I'm doing here. Why don't I? That shouldn't be there. All right, there we go. Let's do it again. One more time, subscription. And then I'm going to get into the topics. So, yeah, and click like also, please. So 53,486 are the official count, right? And it's almost certainly much, much higher. Some of the doctors, the people on the ground say several 100,000. This is a 10%, 12% possibly fatality rate, maybe even more. The entire land, the entire area completely leveled. There's another picture. This is from the Wafa News Agency. That's the Palestinians, the Palestinian service. And we do thank our good friend, again, Ari, for bringing that to our attention, that is the news agency, because I was having trouble with that one. And just the weekend was particularly awful, particularly horrific in Gaza as a result of Israeli action. You have a death toll now of 53,000. Well, again, 53,486. We saw that reported there. And the majority reported to be women and children. That's a point we've made here before on a number of occasions. I think people really, we just realize you don't want children. I mean, what have they done to deserve this? And their lives are permanently scarred. Obviously, they're going to hate Israel. They're going to hate the United States. Totally understandable. And they're going to want revenge. That's how human beings are. That's who we are. We want to hurt the people who hurt us. I saw a study that said if you're stressed out, if somebody causes you stress, someone does something to hurt you, that causes you agony, pain, and people have different levels, right? Some people don't get stressed out. Some people don't feel injured, but others do. I'm actually one of those people who feels a lot of injury. I'm very sensitive to slights, and that's a problem for me. I'm working on that. I've been working on that for 60 years. But when you feel injured, when you are injured, when somebody does something that hurts you, what studies have shown is that the best way to reduce that stress, the way that you immediately lower that uncomfortable feeling, is you hurt the person who hurts you back. And it could take, years, right? Where you store it up and you're like, they did this to me and I'm going to get them back. And then you finally do. Or you certainly try. And that is exactly what's going to happen to us and to Israel as a result of the incredible amount of pain, the crimes committed against the Palestinian people. 136 slain civilians in the past 24 hours. That's just Sunday, according to WAFA, and 367 deaths over the past 3 days. Uh, 367 deaths over the past 3 days. I think I got that. I think that number is incorrect. I think that number should be 486. But I'll figure that out later. So just a terrible, terrible circumstances. Terrible thing in Israel right now, with 3,357 Gazans killed by Trump and Netanyahu. No excuses for Trump, no exoneration. He apparently, by reports, did push for a kind of a ceasefire, and he got it for a month or two. There was a little bit of optimism that we might have had. I had, and then it's all gone. It's all gone. So, yeah. We'll talk a lot about this story. Is going to continue. We're going to continue to talk about it in kind of the ramifications of what Israel is doing in other areas, in other aspects, or the power, the influence of Israel in other aspects of American life. By the way, I just corrected that just to give you the correct slide. 53,486 identified Gazans killed since October 7. 367 additional deaths Friday through Sunday. Now, we have seen, if there's anyone who is truly condemning, truly attacking the United States, the unholy alliance between the United States and Israel, it's young people. And it may be because they feel they have less of a stake in Israel. I'm not really sure. It's the way people are raised. I've heard a lot from various sources that it's the media that the youths are consuming. So they're watching TikTok videos. They're seeing how bad things are through that medium. That's the explanation, I think, that, in fact, I don't think, I heard this video. I saw this video with Norm Coleman, former Republican governor of Minnesota, Jewish, decrying how more and more Americans, especially young Americans, have turned against Israel, and blaming, in his view, you got to blame someone for this. I mean, why aren't we all behind Israel? We should all support Israel no matter what. How could we not be? Well, it must be the fault of the media that they're consuming. So young people, according to Coleman, watching videos on TikTok, have seen firsthand the devastation, and that's what's upsetting them. So the answer is we got to stop them from accessing information, right? That's the answer. Let's cut off, let's kill TikTok, which hasn't been killed, hasn't been sold to date. I'm not so sure. I don't, look, you can get the truth is out there. I've never once watched a TikTok video. I don't. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe I have clicked on one or two. I shouldn't say I've never, but if they were on Facebook, somebody posted on Facebook, maybe I've clicked on it, but almost never. And that's certainly not a source for me. But I recognize just how evil the American-Israeli genocide is. I condemn it. I've got the information out there. The information is there. You don't need TikTok. You don't need young people. If they didn't see it on TikTok, presumably they would see it somewhere else. I think a lot of older Americans who are more either set in their ways, it's in their muscle memory, we support Israel. I heard that phrase from Jen Perlman's video, Jen Perlman's podcast. Maybe it's in the muscle memory. We just reflexively support Israel. We've heard the Hasbara from Israel for generations, so we support it. I'm I'm not really clear what that's about. I don't know that it's media. But the bottom line is more and more young people have turned against Israel. And this young graduate, or should be a graduate from
in this time,
the New York University, certainly isn't accepting the propaganda that Israel disseminates, that the U.S. government promotes, that somehow Israel is the victim here, that somehow Hamas is the criminal here. They're not buying it. He's not buying it. And here's this very, very, I think, admirable speech that this young man gave. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the blowback. It's not all the speech, but this short was best, I think, because it kind of summed up everything I'm trying to get out at this point. So let's play it.
The only thing that is appropriate to say in this time and to a group this large is a recognition of the atrocities currently happening in Palestine.
I want to just stop it there. So he gets like wild applause for that, for what he just said, for just bringing up the atrocities that Israel and the United States are perpetrating. He gets, that's what the students want to hear. This is what people are hungry for, is some truth, which they just aren't getting. Certainly not getting in your New York Times. This is at NYU, New York City. Where's the truth? You're not getting it on your BBC. You're not getting it. There's glimmers, right? There's dribs and drabs, but it's almost invariably on the one hand, but on the other hand, yes, Israel's killing children. It's bad. But on the other hand, Hamas started it. So there's that kind of completely phony two-handedness, bilateral. Somehow there's a two sides to the story. No, there's not. There is a criminal state backed by another. I can't really quite say the United States is criminal, but backed by another reprehensible government, our government, that's committing genocide. That's it. There's full stop. End of discussion. And this is what people are dying to hear. And this is what the student is saying. This student in his graduation speech is saying.
As it is withholding the diploma of graduating student Logan Rozos, who condemned the war in Gaza while delivering a graduation speech.
The genocide currently occurring.
Every time he uses the word genocide, people applaud because they're not hearing it. We'll talk more about that. They're not the obvious truth. And language is really important because when we say, yes, this is a genocide. Yes, Israel is a criminal state. Yes, Israel's actions are comparable to Nazi Germany's. When we say that, we're forced to act. If we acknowledge this truth, we're forced to do something to, at a minimum, examine our belief system, to question what we're learning, to say, you know what? There's good in the United States and there's bad. The bad is Trump. The good is the Democrats. If we just elect Democrats, everything will be okay. And it's such a comforting, as much as it's such a comforting notion. I'm not responsible for the problems. I voted for Kamala. I voted for Hillary. So I'm okay. I'm good. It's those knuckle-dragging, submoronic, blue-collar idiots in the heartland who are getting what they deserve. It's their fault. If that's your mindset, and people want to have that when they're sipping their Chardonnay or their Cab at their country club and looking down at the poor people, if you feel kind of uncomfortable, right? You're like, well, how come I have so much and those people have so little? But then you can say, yeah, well, they voted for Trump, so they deserve it. But it's really hard to take that position that you're morally innocent. The people you voted for are largely responsible for the crime of the millennium. That's not something you want to think about. It's not something you want to feel. So you push it aside. You shove it into some dark recess of your mind. Well, this student ain't going to let you do that.
Is supported politically and militarily by the United States, is paid for by our tax dollars, and has been live streamed to our phones for the past 18 months.
In a statement, NYU strongly denounced the student's choice, saying...
So obviously, NYU doesn't like students who learn in their classrooms what happens when you have an immoral, murderous government that supports another immoral, murderous government. Obviously, NYU doesn't want that discussed.
He lied about the speech he was going to deliver.
And I love this. I love this. Oh, we have these rules. You get to speak, but only if you say what we agree to let you say. That is just such a complete violation of any kind of idea of free speech or of intellectual inquiry. Now you say, well, they don't get free speech. It's not even a state university. NYU is a private university. Okay, I agree with you. It is a private university. But universities are about, I thought, seeking truth. Universities are about challenging power and assumptions. Isn't that what Logan Rosa did? Isn't that what we should be praising, applauding? I mean, some people say, well, hey, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. He's violated the rules, so he has to be punished for it. Well, the rules are wrong, but I give him an amazing amount of praise for being willing to do that. And of course you lie about it. Of course you don't tell them what you're going to say if you know they're not going to let you speak. Of course he did the right thing. We're talking about mass murder here. We're talking about exposing the crimes of the university itself. It's full-blown support for this murder, this mass murder going on. Of course he was right to lie to them.
He made to comply with our rules. The university is withholding his diploma while we pursue disciplinary action. NYU is deeply sorry that the audience...
I'm sure they're sorry. I'm sure they're sorry that students wildly applauded hearing the truth. Yeah, I'll bet they're sorry. Because the university almost certainly profits from its relationship to the weapons of the criminal state that we have. And NYU, I don't know what percentage. I don't know how high a percentage of the student body there is Jewish. I assume it's relatively high. New York is a very Jewish city. Many graduates from NYU are Jewish. There's a Stern School of Business. The Tisch family is one of the biggest contributors, the donors to New York University, the Tisch family. They're not going to be happy about this. So I'm sure John Beckman is sorry that it got broadcast.
These remarks, and that this moment was stolen by someone who abused a...
I love it, a privilege. It's astonishing. So the tuition at NYU is about $80,000 a year. And I don't know whether he had to borrow the money or whether he got some kind of scholar. Maybe his family paid for it. I have no idea. But I'd hardly say it's some sort of great privilege to pay NYU all that money, get voted the speaker that the students want to hear, that they select, and then to speak the truth to power. That's not a privilege. That's an incredible, heroic act is what that is. That's heroism.
CNN has reached out to Rozos and NYU for further details. CNN also reached out to the student government for comment on Rozos' speech.
All right, so that's all we got, and it was a good video there by CNN. I didn't play the whole speech. I do recommend you want to watch more of it. You can certainly find the whole thing on YouTube or check out what Jimmy Dore had to say, because he brought this to my attention to a degree, not altogether. I knew about the story, but he really brought it up. So what brought it out for me? So there were a couple of things I wanted to just point out. Well, first of all, the New York Times, I don't have the headline in here right now, but the New York Times, one of its more shameful, moments, and there are lots and lots of them. I mean, it's hardly like there's just been one shameful moment. The New York Times headline is it's ugly. What they said is they put genocide in quotes, like it's not really happening. Like somehow that's what like that's what the student is calling it, but it isn't really necessarily a genocide. How many people are killed now? Well over 50,000 of a population. Israel's completely leveling it. Almost all of the dead are civilians. So here's just real quick how your media doesn't tell you the truth, how your media completely manipulates the news to manufacture consent. So, and this isn't the New York Post. You don't get to say, oh, it's those right wingers. It's some tabloid that, the bridge and tunnel people read. If you're from New York, you know what I mean by that. The bridge and tunnel people from Queens, people from Brooklyn, they're not the Manhattan people, the lawyers and the investment bankers. Maybe they're stockbrokers, but they're not, financial analysts. So here's what the New York Times says. He denounced the Gaza war. He was clear it's genocide. The university says that as students remarked condemning, quote, genocide. So I love that. It's not like there's any doubt. It's genocide. But the New York Times won't acknowledge it, won't admit it. Oh no, well, because why? Why not? Well, same reason NYU. A lot of people who add to its bottom line wouldn't like it. So you're not getting the truth. You're just not. There's just no reason to believe you'll get the truth. And we have to move away from this incredibly corrupt system. We have to find other media sources. We have to find other political parties. I was just, what really was my focus for this was, this is a horrible thing that NYU is doing. It's totally wrong. They've betrayed their mission as an academic university, as a truth seeker, as a promoter. It's interesting. My younger son is a Maryland Terrapin. He graduated from the University of Maryland. And they have this slogan. All the schools now have these slogans. So their slogan, like I went to Wesleyan, so our slogan is now know your why, whatever the hell. I guess that means you're supposed to know why you're doing things, right? Know your why. So if you want to, be a lawyer, why do you want to be a lawyer? Know why. So I guess because I want to make a lot of money. I don't know. Is that why? I don't know. So know your why. So Maryland's slogan is fearless ideas. Okay, I actually kind of like fearless ideas a little more so than know your why, because fearless ideas does sort of suggest those are ideas that are going to scare people, right? They might be afraid, or you might be afraid, but you can't give in to that fear. So a fearless idea, Israel is a genocidal state, right? Because if you accept that idea, you got to do something. And it's scary to do something. It's scary to take on powerful people with guns and bombs and airplanes. It's scary. And secret police. But that's what ultimately, I think is our moral imperative, is to stand up for the truth, to stand up for the victims of empire, of wealth, of power, the malefactors of great wealth. And that's who many of the people I know claim Bernie and AOC are. Well, I can't think of any cause that should be dearer to the hearts of those fighting oligarchy, right? Fighting concentrated power, than standing up for a young man who speaks out against genocide, who speaks out against empire. So I looked at, I was like, well, what have they said? And I asked, I couldn't find anything. I asked AI, right? I'm not a big AI person, but here it makes sense to ask it. So here's my question. What have Bernie and AOC said about NYU graduation speaker's diploma? I know it's not perfect grammar. That should be speaker with a possessive, right? With an apostrophe after the R. Your NYU graduation speaker's diploma being withheld. It appears you're asking about the reactions of Sanders and AOC regarding NYU's decision to withhold a... See, it rephrases it with much better grammar than I use. To withhold a student's possessive diploma after a controversial commencement speech. Unfortunately, there's no information available. So this happened last week. There's plenty of time for them to, tweet something out, right? Plenty of time. Nothing. Crickets. Nada. These are your heroes. These are your progressive stalwarts. These are the ones fighting for some kind of freedom, who are condemning Trump at every turn. I mean, what a frigging joke. We have to move on. So let me just show you again. This was my, little thumbnail. I wanted to put this up there. So AOC, NYU, what's NYU? So it's funny because, I like to think it's funny because she's in New York. She lives in Queens? Her district is Queens and includes Queens and part of the Bronx, or at least it did. I think it's just Queens. I think they redistricted her a little bit. Come on. I mean, you think this is, I believe, it's certainly the largest private university in New York City. I guess not the most prestigious, because that would go to Columbia, but it's certainly very prestigious, very well known. World-renowned NYU. What's NYU? I don't know. Good, nothing to say. And Bernie, get off my lawn. You don't want to hear about it. Now, obviously, they didn't really say it. I'm just paraphrasing their non-responses. But they might as well have just said to the students, go pounce. So what? So they're taking away your diploma. Suck it. Right? There's no champions in high places for these people. And I really use that get off my lawn line because I think it really shows it. It really kind of points to how far Bernie has fallen from maybe he always was where he is now. Just kind of willing to sort of take on elites when there wasn't a very high price to pay. Maybe that was it. That he's never really paid the price. But it was, you compare this to the Bernie we thought we knew in 2016. And In These Times had this article by Matt Brunig in 2016, and he was responding to a Joan Walsh writing in The Nation, which, has clearly dropped off the table as well. If they're going to publish Joan Walsh and promote people like AOC, and they're doing it right now. But Joan Walsh to young Bernie Sanders supporters, get off my lawn. And Walsh was all angry because there were some Bernie Sanders people on her who visited her house, and I guess they went out there and they knocked on her door, and she was really mad. Her article was like, don't they know anything? They're ignorant. What about the importance of electing the first woman president? And they're making fun of Hillary and they're criticizing Hillary. That was her whole piece. And she criticized the Bernie voters, even though Bernie at that point was in his 70s, for being so young. They don't really know. They're callow youth. And Matt Brunig, quotes her diatribe, which included the phrase "barely shaving." Oh, like, he's so young, he barely shaves. So those were Bernie's supporters in 2016. The people who were barely shaving, obviously they saw something in Bernie. Well, now a barely shaving student, and if you look at his face, I think he is barely shaving, if he is shaving at all, barely shaving NYU student is speaking out against genocide. He's punished severely, having his diploma withheld, and Bernie's got nothing to say. Some people say, well, it's not really his fight, it's NYU's. It's not really AOC's fight, it's NYU's. Do you want to win elections? Are you really serious about wanting to fight oligarchy and take down Trump? Well, guess what you do then? You separate yourself from his policies. You call out where his actions have led to terrible, terrible harm. And also, that's really unpopular. Don't you want to be the politicians of the vanguard of the young? Don't you want these students going home, these grads going home and saying, guess who gets us? AOC and Bernie. Guess who supports us? Who recognizes just how terrible American policy is and how we must change it? AOC and Bernie. Obviously, well, maybe that sounds good, Hal. But, we get a lot of blowback. People wouldn't like it. There's Democrats who think Israel's the bee's knees, and we don't want to piss them off. Okay. Well, then don't be shocked when you keep losing elections. And what I say to voters, you gotta throw these people under the bus. They couldn't care less about anything but their own comfortable sinecures and staying kind of close to power, because they sure ain't got any. I get so frustrated. It's so how the Dem, whatever term, just don't get it over and over, and postings that make zero sense when you examine even the slightest little bit of investigation. So I'm in this group this Maryland guy started, and I like it all about. I like the YouTube group, the Facebook groups where you can say anything and you're allowed. That's what I want. Is I don't want any filters. I don't want politeness. I don't want people getting all offended or outraged. One of the things that I do find, so I had a really yesterday, a close friend of mine, my closest law school friend, and I went to one of my very dearest friends, went to see the Maryland-Georgetown lacrosse match in Annapolis. And we had a great time. It was really fun. It was really nice. And one of the things they were saying to me is that their church is apolitical. And my friend really likes it. This guy likes it. There's just like a rule. And I don't think it's an even unwritten rule. I think it's a written rule. I think you're told in this group when you join the church, or you become part of it, or I don't understand. I don't go to church. I don't go to synagogue. I don't know how these things work. But apparently the unwritten or written rule is we don't talk politics at this church. We just don't, because it causes too much dissension, too much anger. And I totally get that. I think that's very, very unfortunate. But I understand why. And I don't say the rule is a bad one. I think it actually is probably a good one in a lot of ways. But, you wouldn't have that in a Catholic church, right? I mean, because the Pope is constantly talking political. So, but I get, maybe you would. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think it's unfortunate because politics is so, it's important because it's how our, we can, if we need change. Things are really bad. If we're going to change the dynamic, which we must, if we even want to continue to exist in anywhere near the way we have, want to conserve any beauty left on this planet, we need to use politics to do it. But I get it. People want to go to church. They want to get a break. They want to get away, feel like they're getting away from the world a little bit. And I understand that. So I get it. But it's very sad. I like groups on Facebook and other social media where there's no rules. I have rules at Halitics. You can say whatever you want about current events. You can't insult people. And I think that should be the rule. You can't insult. I've lost friends. I don't, when I'm with my friends from various schools, a lot of times I don't talk politics too much, and I try, which is hard for me. But I try to stay out of it to a degree, stay out of the fray. And I was thinking I've lost a goodly number of friends because of politics. And it's my personality too. It's not just, I talk politics, but the way I talk about it, I get it. But what I was thinking that really frustrates me, and I feel bad about it too, but people that I'm friends with through politics, right? I met them because we were involved in progressive organizations. It's not like we met, in grade school, or because we were on the same ultimate frisbee team, or, we were in a book group together. It's not because of that. It's because we were in a progressive organization or organizations together. That's how we met. That's how we became friendly. And I was thinking people like that, whose friendships I've lost, is very frustrating. And they might say, well, you don't listen to me, you insist on your view. But I would respond with, I do listen. I hear what you have to say. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't dump you. I wouldn't cancel you as a friend because I really strongly disagree with your view, whether it's that the Democratic Party is really the vehicle we need for change, which I, of course, disagree with because it ain't. It's a vehicle for more of the same, or whether you believe that we have to champion trans athletes competing against girls, trans girls competing against females, whether you believe that we have to, if you don't support that, then you're transphobic. I so strongly disagree with you on that issue, but I'm not going to cancel you for it. I'm not going to stop talking to you. And when you say to me, well, because you feel this way, because you're that critical of Israel, I can't talk to you anymore. I can't have this, be in you can't be in my life. If you say that to me, what you're telling me also, and this is not some friend from high school, I'm talking about people that I met through politics. What you're saying to me is, you really aren't progressive. You really aren't about a journey to the truth. You aren't about seeking a better way for all of us. You're about protecting your worldview from challenge. And that's so sad. That's so unfortunate. This post really just so wrenched at me, like not wrenched, like, oh, I felt so sad. I'm like, really? So there's a link to this story about how Russia is attacking Ukraine, and look at the damage. I mean, it's nothing compared. If this was Gaza, the house would be leveled, it'd be completely destroyed. But it's bad. And a lot of people, thousands and thousands, I think hundreds of thousands now have died in the Russia-Ukraine war. And the headline or the comment by this poster is, peace never with Putin. And to me, I find that like the strangest, most counterintuitive, most irrational response. You see a house, you see an area that's destroyed, and your answer to that is more of it? Peace never? I don't understand that. And I commented, I said, it's totally, that's an insane take. It is an insane take to say, oh, look at what war is doing. Let's keep it going. So I wrote, so because Russia is killing lots of people during this war, you want the war to continue. Isn't that what they're saying? So the moderator of the group jumps in. And again, I like this group. You can say whatever you want. I'm fine with the moderator commenting. Good, comment. She didn't say she wants the war to continue. We all want it to stop. Putin has the power to make it stop, but he doesn't. And her commentary is saying that Putin doesn't want peace, not that she doesn't want the war to stop. And then they add on, as long as Putin is still attacking, Ukrainians have to defend themselves. This war would be over simply if Putin told his army to leave Ukraine. The war could be over tomorrow, so let's continue the war blame where it really belongs to Putin. Okay, Putin deserves a lot of blame. I don't deny that, of course. But don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. She didn't say she wants the war to continue. She said peace never with Putin. That means you want the war to continue. Obviously. No question about it. There's no other way to interpret that. Yes, you want the war to continue. You're saying peace never. Don't negotiate. Don't have peace. This guy is bombing and killing. So therefore, we have to continue the bombing and killing. That's the answer that you're getting. And I want to point out how crazy this is too. This would be like a Palestinian saying, peace never with Israel, right? When you see all the bombing, you see how badly Israel has decimated Gaza. So Palestinians saying peace never with Israel. Now, I'm sure they are saying that. I think it's a perfectly reasonable, rational answer, right? But you want the bombing to stop. Let's have peace. Please stop killing us. Right? Peace never with Bibi? Is that your response? I mean, it's Israel. Of course they want peace right now. Because they're bearing the brunt of the war. They're losing the war. You know, it's like when Trump said, we need a trade war. People would say, Trump's threatening a trade war with his tariffs. Well, I get it, because we're losing the peace, right? We've lost all these jobs. So maybe war would be preferable to peace when it comes to trade. That is actually a rational response. We have free, in quotes, trade, so I guess you could call that a peace. Nobody's, raising tariffs and making it more difficult to sell products across borders, so that's kind of a peace, right? And Trump's like, hey, we're losing that peace. Let's have a trade war, okay? Nobody dies in a trade war, at least you hope they don't. So who's losing the Ukraine war? Ukraine. Who's losing the Israel war on Palestine? Well, I hear a lot about how Israel's lost its soul, which if it had one, it certainly has lost that, and how in the long run Israel's less safe, which I say, and I believe that. But right now, the losers are the people getting bombed. The losers are the mothers who now don't have children anymore, the fathers who are widowed, the babies who are orphans. They're the losers. The war is making them all losers. So let's end the war. So to me, it is an odd, it's bizarre. You see all these people being killed, and then you say peace never with Putin. I'm going to add on to that in just one more second, but one final point. If you're a Ukrainian, I get it a little bit, right? I mean, this guy's invaded your country. I don't want to get into all the history. Obviously, I think it's more complicated. It's nuanced. It's not just all on Putin. It's all Putin's fault. The way obviously Gaza is all Israel's fault. There's no like quid pro quo. There's no defense for what Israel's doing. It's not defending itself in any way. It's sort of Gaza posed no threat militarily to Israel. The way Israel should protect itself from future terrorism from Palestinians is to stop terrorizing Palestinians, to stop keeping its boot on the throat of the Palestinian people. The way that Israel could easily end the threat from Palestine is to incorporate Palestine into Israel as a one-state solution. That's what Israel could do. Russia obviously didn't have those options with Ukraine. So the situation with Russia and Ukraine is very different than the situation. Israel wholly without any justification, any morality, any intellectual explanations for what they're doing beyond just they're cruel and they're They're greedy. They're land hungry. Netanyahu wants to avoid criminal prosecution. So I don't find any of those explanations even the least bit compelling or even sort of kind of interesting. Whereas, there's a lot of reasons Putin invaded Ukraine, and some of it was he was provoked. All right, 240-242-5646. According to Ari, he posted this a while ago, I didn't get to it. TikTok has a large pro-Palestine constituency, and as I understand it, works on algorithms that will quickly share more videos related to what you watch more of. I use it a bit, but it can be overwhelming. Yeah, I mean, that's how I think. Same with YouTube. There's plenty of pro-Palestine videos there. That's where I get my information. I suppose I see more of them because I watch like Katie Halper or maybe sometimes Jimmy Dore, or sometimes I've really stopped watching the Do Dissidence Bros, but Katie's really good. Aaron Mate's really good on Palestine. Max Blumenthal's really good on Palestine. Yeah. So, right. Like, so the issue there with Putin is, I get it. If you're Ukrainian, you maybe you don't want peace with Putin, but do you want your villages to be completely wiped off the planet? I don't think so. So maybe you hold your nose and you sue for peace. And, oh yeah, finally. So that, as I understand it, that post was shared by someone who isn't a Ukrainian. They're an American. And they're just like, yeah, we should have war with Putin. I get it. If Putin's destroying your village, maybe you're like, we got to go after him. If Russia's destroying your village, you have to go after him. But Putin ain't destroying any American villages. And our interests really aren't really at stake in any way. And there's plenty of good reason for us not to get involved with that war, except to try to end it. And that is what Trump is actually trying to do. So President Trump and Putin speak on Ukraine, but they play down expectations. This is from this morning, New York Times. And just to kind of put a bow on that, Trump, according to the Times now, is frustrated and is basically just wants to wash his hands of both Putin and Zelensky. And I think he should. I think he should just say, yeah, no, I'm done. I actually don't think he should do that. He's the most powerful person in the world. Use your pulpit. As much as these are two, in some ways, fractious children beating each other over the head with shovels, you got to try to stop it. This story got a lot of interesting attention. So Hillary Clinton getting praised here in the liberal, right? The Huffington Post, liberal, pro-democratic, presumably anti-corruption, right? Look at how great Hillary is. This is from Thursday. She bludgeons Trump, isn't that wonderful, with pure truth about Qatar jet gift. And it's amazing the way, how they miss it. And this isn't really about bashing Hillary. I guess it is, but it's really more about how your media lets you down every single time. Every time your liberal media lets you down. Every time. The reason I say that is because Hillary Clinton, no less, or only a little tiny bit less than Donald Trump, is also an enemy of decency, is also an enemy of truth, is also an enemy of peace, of justice, of fairness, of life. Hillary Clinton, if only a little bit less than Trump, maybe, is also a corrupt, soulless, narcissistic individual. So here the Post bolsters her, praises her, HuffPost, Why wouldn't I accept a free gift, Trump says about the jet plane he got from Qatar. And here's Hillary's bon mot, her witty riposte, her bludgeoning, right? She bludgeons him with, well, no one gives someone a $400 million jet for free without expecting anything in return. Well, you're right, Hillary. Obviously, it was a bribe. There's no question about it. And no one would know better than you bribes. No one has, a history more replete with corruption, with leveraging your influence to get big donations. This isn't as much money, I admit it. Back in 2016, when she was Secretary of State, she got $1 million. Well, you know what? Let's be clear. Trump's $1 million gift, that $400 million gift, so it's a lot more money. That's very transparent. No one denies. We all know he got it. He's not hiding it. And it's being presented as, well, it goes to the U.S. government first, which is true. He's going to use it as Air Force One. I don't know why we need Qatar to give, but, Air Force One is a U.S. ultimately airplane. It's not a Trump airplane, although obviously he'll benefit from it. It's a bribe. This guy's corrupt. He's corrupt as the day goes along. And he's very overt. He's very transactional. He's like, hey, they're going to do this for me. I'm sure I'll do something for them. Trump doesn't really mince words about that stuff. Hillary's charity, the Clinton Foundation, was it really a charity? It was a charity that paid her and her spouse millions and millions of dollars and made them very rich. They were broke, according to Hillary, when they left. They were in debt, I believe. I'm not sure her exact words. Broke and debt, I can't remember. When they left the White House in 2001, after W was elected, took office. According to her, they were broke. Now they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know how, the foundation was a charity, supposedly. They got $1 million from Qatar while she was at state. So she was the first term Secretary of State, 2009 to 13, comes out 2016. And it's really a pretty ugly story. It really is. Clinton Foundation confirms it accepted a $1 million gift from Qatar while Clinton was Secretary of State without informing the State Department. Now, that's really bad. I'm not saying the $400 million jet isn't really bad. Maybe it's worse. You want to put them on a scale, $400 million versus $1 million? Of course, the $400 million jet is going to be used by the U.S. government, and I know there's a lot of expenses involved. We can get into whatever. I'm not defending it, but I'm saying what a shameless hypocrite Hillary Clinton is for complaining about Trump getting a jet, which he didn't really, first goes to the U.S. government. When her foundation got $1 million from a country that she was, negotiating with, doing business with, and she never even told anybody. What kind of favors did she do for the government of Qatar? What did American taxpayers provide to Qatar during that time? I don't know. Do we know? Were U.S. interests compromised in some way? You'd think. I would think. Because, remember what Hillary said. But what did she say? What is her exact words? Let's see if we can get that up. No one gives someone a $400 million jet for free without expecting anything in return. Well, did they just give your foundation $1 million without expecting anything in return? You know what kind of makes that seem especially sus? Is that they never told anyone. If this was just some innocent gift because Qatar loves what the Clinton Foundation is doing, then why wouldn't the Clinton Foundation acknowledge it? Why wouldn't they say, yeah, this is what happened? Especially after she had promised that she would let the agency review new or significantly increased support from foreign governments. But she didn't. I don't know how to interpret that. Maybe it's only $1 million. It's nothing. It's not $400 million. Or maybe Clinton is a really bad negotiator compared to Trump, who was able to squeeze a jet out of the government of Qatar. Well, Hillary only got a paltry $1 million. I mean, how do you make this stuff up? This is the Democratic champion. And I get the argument. Well, this was a long time ago. How this was 9 years ago. Why are you going back in ancient history? Because the Huffington Post, which some people rely on for media, just covered it. They just reported this Friday or Thursday, whatever day it was, the 15th, I guess, Thursday. They just reported on this. They just praised Hillary to the sky. She bludgeoned Trump. Look at how great she is. Is she really?
One of the things that Senator Sanders points to, and a lot of your critics point to, is you made 3 speeches for Goldman Sachs. You were paid $675,000 for 3 speeches. Was that a mistake? I mean, was that a bad error in judgment?
Look, I made speeches to lots of groups. I told them.
I make speeches to lots. Well, it's $675,000. It's no big deal. Why are you even asking me about this, Anderson? You're worth $100 million. You're a Vanderbilt. You know, you get it. You know the score.
Answered questions.
But did you have to be paid $675,000?
Well, I don't know. That's what.
Did you have to take $675,000? Well, I don't know. That's what they offered me. Do they just give it to you for free? They don't expect anything in return? Is that it, Hillary?
You know, every Secretary of State that I know has done that.
Look, she's so contemptuous of these questions. She so doesn't want to hear them. She's rolling her eyes. I've got the Secretary of State. I get some perks, don't I? None of this excuses Trump. That's not the point. The point is that the Democrats put people up against him who are just as bad, who are shameless, dishonest, on the wrong side over and over again. And I would be fine with the Huffington Post reporting this story and reporting Hillary's bludgeoning of Trump with her pure truth, if the Post would simply have done its own homework and said, the problem for Hillary and the Democratic Party is she's a terrible spokesman or spokesperson for this. She's the wrong critic because of her long record of influence peddling, of bribe taking. What we need is a new party that's free of this remarkable corruption, transparent, naked corruption. That's what I want from the Huffington Post. That's what I want from my media. And I ain't getting it. And that's, by the way, why you should watch Halitics. That's why you should subscribe to Halitics. That's why you should be part of the Halitics family. Because we're not partisan. We recognize the evil, the cancer metastasizing throughout our society and touches on every aspect of it, including, obviously, higher education, including our newspapers, including every institution we have is corrupt and corrupted. It's time for a change. And it's too late. I mean, it's time. It's past time. It's too late, really. But, I guess in the end, better late than never. All right, I will be back tomorrow. We have some great guests. Haven't really talked about this. Don't forget, by the way, click like, click subscribe. Tomorrow is an Arlen Tuesday. We're always excited about that. Yeah, don't forget, click like, click subscribe. Join Halitics on Facebook. I really, really want to see you there. Love the back and forth on Facebook. And click the like as well. I'll put the like up in a second. Do want you to subscribe on Facebook if you get a chance, though. I really like that because we get to try to, because what this show's about more than anything else is we identify the problems here. I don't need to have Nick Kristof tell me what's wrong in the world or, I don't know, whoever else, Robert Reich. I know. What I'm looking for is solutions. What we're trying to do here is solve problems. And these problems are existential in nature. whether it's genocide, whether it's a climate catastrophe, the great extinction, the sixth great extinction. These are existential in nature. And I report, right? I'm going to say, hey, we've had the hottest, 5 years. The last 10 years have been the hottest 10 years on record, and it just keeps getting hotter and hotter. The Arctic is ice free, what have you. I'll talk about that. The news is important. It's important that we understand what's happening in the world. But I don't need the filter of a Christoph or a Reich or someone like that to tell me what's going on, or Huffington Post. What I need are solutions. That's what I want to see. I want to see ways that we together can build something better than what we have now. That's what Halitics is all about. 240-242-5646. I'll be back tomorrow. We have great guests. Last week we had guests, good guests. This week more guests. Tomorrow, Arlen. Wednesday, we're going to be joined by Mothers for Medicare for All, the founder, and of course her name escapes me now, but I'll have it for you by Wednesday. And then Thursday evening, I'm recording with friend of Halitics, Carlos Childs, and that will broadcast Friday probably for the free-for-all, unless I decide to do a live free-for-all that Friday. So lots of great guests for the rest of the week. And now I just urge you, please enjoy your afternoon, because it's a nice day. It's a beautiful day here in the nation's capital, and you deserve it, really. And by the way, Bernie, get off my lawn.